Last time on JoeMartinMVC, we filled in my living room window with insulation and a secondary frame for attaching drywall to, as well as running wires behind the wall for new outlets. Now, to pick up where we left off, we're going to put in the new 2-gang box into the drywall and insert the wires from the wall above and the wall to the side into the box, making sure the Wago connectors don't come off until we're ready, as those wires are actually now hot. With the box in the wall, go ahead and tighten down the wing screws on the box to hold it tightly in place. Before putting the outlets into the 2-gang box, we're going to prep the outlets first by putting jumpers across the outlets. Using a 6-inch piece of wire, ideally a white wire for this one, put a jumper going from silver terminal to silver terminal across the 2 outlets, and then a black wire going between the 2 gold terminals. When it comes to the ground wire, using a 10-inch piece of bare copper will easily jump between the 2 outlets and give you enough to connect to the wire nut or Wago block.
Hi, S. What's up?
You know, one thing that people don't say about having a dog or a husky is that sometimes they'll just demand attention and they don't care if you're recording. So, we have a puppy break for a few moments. Enjoy.
Yes, I love you. Can Daddy get back to work? Thanks. Alright, back up. Back up. Thank you. Back up.
Since I'll be using Wago blocks, I'm simply taking a 4-inch wire and backstabbing it into the respective terminals. When it comes to connecting the wires to the Wagos, it's just a matter of opening up the tension clip, sliding the wire in, and locking the clip back down. Now, as I'm doing this, the black wire inside of the Wago connector I have there is actually hot, so I do have to be careful not to touch it as I put the 3-way Wago on for combining the wires. When it comes to combining the wires, it's just a matter of putting the similar colored wires into their respective Wago blocks. The reason we have a 3-way Wago is because this box in the wall is combining the outlet we got power from to the right, this box with the 2 outlets, and also the outlet up above with the recessed outlet that the TV will be connected to. Once the outlets are pushed into the box, making sure to be careful not to touch the terminals on the sides, for if you do, the angry pixies will bite you quite aggressively, and it's not very fun when that happens. Go ahead and screw in the outlets to the box, and then add your cover. Make sure to test your outlets with your tester to verify everything works and is wired correctly. The reason I check for this after I have the outlets in is because if you have a poor connection made, you're liable to cause it to break or come apart when you're shoving the outlets into the box. With the electrical taken care of, it's time to move on to my favorite part, the drywall mudding. To start with, I'm going to cut a couple of strips of drywall tape for the 2 lines that I have to do. Since I don't have the right side piece of drywall ready, I won't be applying any tape or mud to the right side. Mixing up a batch of hot mud is quick and easy. Just make sure you have water in your bucket before pouring in your drywall powder, otherwise it tends to get stuck to the bottom. The consistency we're aiming for is about the same as pancake batter. Just be careful when using it, as it makes it more likely to fall off of your drywall knife and your hock as well, and make quite a mess. When it comes to applying the mud and tape, it's a fairly straightforward process, but will likely take a bit of finesse to get it right. The first coat, though, you don't have to worry too much about. Start off by applying a 4 to 6 inch wide layer of mud across the joints that you're going to be taping before applying your tape to the wet joint. When using paper tape, it'll have a crease in the middle, and you want to make sure that the creased side goes towards the wall, so that way when the sides of the tape lay flat, they lay flat against the wall and does not promote any bubbles forming in the middle from lifting. Once the tape is laying in the mud, use your drywall knife to apply medium pressure to set the tape into the mud and remove any excess mud from underneath. Then, use your knife at an angle, pressing the outside edge of the knife against the wall on the outside of the mud to remove any excess mud so you don't have a hard edge on the wall. It just minimizes the amount of sanding you'll have to do later. The first layer of mud doesn't have to be amazing, as there will be plenty more going on and you'll be sanding a good bit too. One thing I do in between coats, after the mud has set up for about 30 minutes or so, is I use my drywall knife to scrape off any high spots from the mud. Once your first coat is dry, it's time to move on to the second coat of mud. For the second coat, I typically aim for a consistency of like cake frosting. The process for the second coat is pretty much the same as the first. Just slop in a large amount of mud along the path you're wanting to spread it across, then come back with your 12, 14, or 16-inch knife and spread it out, keeping your knife at around a 45-degree angle to the wall to get a nice and thin coat. After the second coat is dried, you'll want to go ahead and sand the mud until it's flat and see if you need a third coat. I'm using 120 grit sandpaper and a full face mask, as sanding drywall, even with the shop vac attached to my sander, gets dust absolutely everywhere. After sanding, we can see a few spots that need some more attention, so a third coat will be put on to fill in any remaining problem areas. Here with the third coat, the main focus is anywhere that I noticed an issue after sanding. And it's simply a matter of slopping mud into the general area of it, and then using my 16-inch knife to get a nice and smooth finish that will need minimal sanding. No matter how good of a filter the shop vac has in it, it still creates a cloud with drywall dust. It's kind of amazing that it actually created a general haze that the camera was able to pick up. But this is the final sanding coat before adding texture, so you're wanting to make sure all edges are sanded fully flat with no lips and that there are no high or low spots. When it comes to wall texture spray, or really any spray cans that you ever use, it's always best practice to soak the can in hot water for about 5 minutes before use. Wall texture spray really benefits from this because if the contents of the can are under about 70 degrees or so, it sprays notably blotchier and looks terrible. I always opt to spray with a very fine spray pattern, as I don't really like the splotchy look that some people tend to enjoy. So with the can shaken up and set to its finest setting, I just spray from side to side with a consistent motion, keeping my arm parallel to the wall, not twisting my wrist as I spray. If you twist away while spraying, you'll get a more splattered effect that's inconsistent. Once it's sprayed and dried, it should give you a very consistent and even finish that offers a good bit of hiding over any imperfections that may have ended up in the final mudding process. And now it's time for a speed round for painting. I'm using Glidden's Diamond Paint in Elemental Gray for my walls. It's a wonderful single coat paint that dries quickly and leaves a wonderful finish. It doesn't splatter everywhere when rolled at a somewhat quick pace, and it's a combination paint and primer, so it can go directly over bare drywall. The caveat being that if you have an oil-based finish on the wall previously, it will not bond well at all, and you'll need to use a dedicated primer if that's the case. With the wall painted, it's time to move the TV and mount it to the newly finished wall. And that's all for this rather lengthy video. If you like the content I'm putting out, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all new content as it comes out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.